أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربي يسر ولا تعسر ربي تمم بالخير ربي زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما اللهم آمين أما بعد. So yesterday we had started the second chapter, Al-Ma'aqid Al-Thani, the second foundation, which is Al-Ikhlas, right? Ikhlas al-Niyya, the sincerity of the intention, where fihi ay fil ilm, in knowledge. As you seek it, you have to be sincere, you have to have sincere intentions as to why you're seeking this knowledge. Right, so yesterday we explained that the purpose of our existence is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. We have not been commanded with anything else except worship of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? And this worship of Allah Azza wa Jal has to happen with two key qualities. One, we have to be mukhliseen lahuddin, and secondly, we have to be hunafa, right? We explained that the word mukhliseen is from mukhlis, which is from akhlasa yukhlisu ikhlas, which means to purify, right? It means to get rid of, right? In this case, you get rid of all impurities from the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? So you're always purifying your religion. You're in a constant, perpetual state of the purification of your religion, and for Allah Azza wa Jal alone, right? For His sake alone. No one else, right? So you purify the religion for Him, you become sincere, essentially, for His sake alone, right? So you purify the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal, the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, for His sake alone. You make the religion for Allah's sake, right? No one else has a share in it. Second, you have to be hunafa. And we explained that the word hunafa is from the singular hanif, and hanif is from the root, which gives you the meaning of being munharif, being leaning towards something, being ma'il, right? Ma'il, from mailan. So someone is hanif when they are bent towards something. They are bent away from something and they're bent towards something, right? So we mentioned the Sahabi Ahnaf radiallahu anh, who's known as Ahnaf because he used to walk in that manner. He was bent on one side when he used to walk, radiallahu anh. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam is called Hanif because he was bent away from shirk and he was bent towards tawheed, right? That was his sijiyya. That was his characteristic, right? And the word Hanif is on the scale of fa'il, as we call it, right, in the ilm of sarf. And this wasn't the scale of fa'il, Hanif, Kareem, all of these kinds of words that come on this scale, generally speaking. They show something, some quality which exists in the person, or in the being of the thing being described, right? When you say someone is Kareem, it means they are, by the virtue of their being, they are generous, or they are honorable, and so on and so forth. Okay? So when someone is Hanif in and of themselves, they have this built-in characteristic. This is a permanent part of their characteristic, that they are essentially they've turned away from shirk. طيب? So Ibrahim alayhi salam has been called Hanif because that was his perpetual state. That was his permanent state. He was always fighting shirk. He was always turning away from kufr and shirk. And he was always bent towards tawheed. Right? So we want to worship Allah with these two characteristics. We want to be mukhliseen and we want to be hunafa. We want to be mukhliseen for Allah Azza wa Jal alone, and we have to be mukhliseen for the deen. We have to purify the religion of Allah, as in we have to get rid of all the impurities that creep into it from anyone outside, or from based on our desires and whims, so shahawat. Okay. Now, how is this connected to ikhlas? Well, ikhlas essentially is from mukhlisin, right? So when you're purifying your religion for Allah's sake, for Allah Azza wa Jal, you are essentially getting rid of any kind of hypocrisy, right? So hypocrisy is something that is going to eat away your ikhlas, right? It is going to take away this characteristic of mukhlisina lahuddin from you, right? And surely when that is damaged, the next characteristic is going to erode away as well, right? Hanif is someone who is steadfast on Tawheed, right? Hanif is someone who is steadfast on Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. That is how they live their life. They live their life for Tawheed, and they are always in a constant battle with shirk. That is who a Hanif is, right? He is essentially the embodiment of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So you have to, when you think of ikhlas, that is something that you have in mind. Those two characteristics, right? Now, we mentioned yesterday that essentially the first principle, which is the first maqid, right, which was the purification of the heart, or the vessel of ilm, right? So cleansing yourself from the shahawat and shubuhat. Essentially, if you look at the hierarchy of things, it is secondary to ikhlas, okay? Because a person, the only reason why they may ever acknowledge that they have shubuhat or they have shahawat is because of the ikhlas. This one simple realization that you want to be honest to yourself and that you're not being honest to yourself at the moment will get you to self-inspect, internalize some shortcomings of yours, and then start to work towards them, to start towards fixing them, right? So the idea that you want to purify your heart, that has to begin with sincerity. You have to be sincere with yourself and Allah Azza wa Jal for you to be able to begin that process of purification, right? So if you don't have ikhlas, you can't really do the first. You can't really, go the extra mile of, by cleaning the heart of shahawat and shubuhat, right? So ikhlas is the foundation of all things, okay? This is why the famous hadith of Umar in Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim, that the Messenger of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, al-a'malu bin-niyyah. All of the actions, al-a'mal, the word al, the alif lam letter, it refers, when it enters on a genus, it refers to every single person or every single member of that group. So when you think of any action, the word a'mal the word a'mal encapsulates that. Any action that you can think of, it is included inside the word a'mal, actions, right? It's general. And alif lam, it sort of gives you that istighraq, right? So all of the actions that you can think of, they're based on intention. Now, some a'mal are those which are shar'i, essentially ibadat, things which Allah has commanded you to do, or has prohibited upon you. Others are things which are general, eating food, which is from the general habits of human beings, eating, sleeping, and walking, all those general things that we do as human beings. The purport of this hadith essentially is general. All actions are for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay. Now, when we think of this in terms of the fiqh, just the legal matters, then it refers to the fact that your fiqhi actions, your ibadat and mu'amalat, are only valid when there is an intention behind it. When there is no intention, then the amal would be invalid. Like the salah, like the wudu, and so many other things, right? So the intention has to be there for the validity of an action. But over here, when we're talking about sincerity generally, ikhlas generally, and intention generally, we're talking about actions which are essentially in a general sense, right? In a general sense, in the sense that you do your actions for the sake of Allah, right? So you make all your intentions. Your intention behind any action is that you're doing this for Allah and His sake alone, right? Now, of course, the aqidah side of things, I'm going to discuss it in a second. But we have to understand this first principle, that here we're not being specific with fiqh. We're keeping it general. And the niyyah here is to please Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay, we're doing this any action, behind that is the intention of pleasing Allah Azza wa Jal, that you want to do things for the sake of Allah. Okay, this is the intention that is being referred to over here. This niyyah is general, right? It's not specific towards any action. Okay, inshallah ta'ala. Now, وَلِكُلِّ إِمْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. وَلِكُلِّ, and for every imri'in, person, human being, man, مَا نَوَى is what he has intended. مَا نَوَى, what he has, nawa, intended. Okay, so for every person will get according to what they have intended. So the more ikhlas they have, the more ajr they're going to get, or based on their intention, the action is going to be valid. Okay, so for example, you make hijrah for getting a job in a Muslim country because Muslim countries pay well. Then your hijrah essentially is for that thing that you've done, right? So you're not going to get the reward of the actual Islamic hijrah. You're going to get the reward of whatever lesser objective you've set out to achieve in that hijrah, right? So that's the first thing in terms of this the second phrase, where either your action is going to be based on the intention, in terms of its totality, its validity, right? So you're going to get the ajr in terms of the action being valid, so acceptable with Allah Azza wa Jal, or completely rejected. طيب. Secondly, either you're going to get the full reward for it, or you're going to get a reward based which is in comparison to your it's the sincerity of your intention, right? So al-a'malu bin-niyyah, either the actions they're valid with the intention, or the a'mal are rewarded as per the sincerity and purity of the intention. Okay, now in terms of the aqidah, as I mentioned, if someone does something, anything in Islam, right, and before they've started doing that, before they've initiated their action, before they've started to act upon whatever they want to act, if at the beginning the intention is corrupted and it's not for the sake of Allah, then this is shirk. It's not just riya. Okay, it is shirk, and this can get rid of someone's tawheed in totality. Someone can become a kafir. Someone can leave the fold of Islam simply by having the intention of doing something for other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, for someone other than Allah Azza wa Jal. So having an intention of doing that action for someone other than Allah can take you outside the fold of Islam. Okay. However, once you've started the intention, once you've started the action with the intention of pleasing Allah, if that's your intention. Now, once that action has been started, and then the intention is corrupted, right? Then based on how you deal with it, will decide as to how much reward you get. طيب? And of course, this is something that we're going to discuss in a much more detail when we study the sharh of this hadith, in the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. But over here I'm just mentioning it in brief, that how important your intentions are, subhanallah, is that if the intention is corrupted at the beginning, you no longer are Muslim, subhanallah, right? And if then you start with a good intention for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal alone, right? So just take this as a maxim, just so that things are clear in your head. Before you've started something, if in the beginning of the action, before you've even started something, right, if the niyyah is corrupted, if there is the intention that you want to do this to please people, right, or part please people and part please Allah Azza wa Jal, then this is very dangerous, because this could take you outside the fold of Islam, right? This is shirk akbar. This can destroy your asl tawheed. Asl tawheed, the foundation of tawheed. However, once you've started something, being human, shaitan can come and give you waswas, and he can try and detract you by changing your intention, and so on and so forth. If something like this happens, and the person, they don't fight it off, then they've fallen into something we call a riya, right? A riya, which is minor shirk. But this does not take someone outside the fold of Islam. However, their amal will be batil. They will not get the reward for their action. Now, if someone is is actively fighting the riya, then Allah Azza wa Jal will, inshallah, will not hold them to account. طيب? This is in a nutshell. This is in the simplest form, simplest terms I can put it. And we'll look into the detail of this, inshallah, when we study the actual commentary on this hadith later. طيب? As far as this topic is concerned of ikhlas being the foundation of ilm, you understand that if you're seeking knowledge, all of your knowledge that you're going to seek in your life, from the basic adhkar to the salah, to matters of inheritance, to the matter of nikah and divorce, to the matters of dealings in terms of buying and selling, all the way up to jinayat, criminology, everything that you can imagine studying in Islam, right? To tawheed, aqidah, of course the most important thing, tafsir, hadith, all of that study and the reward you seek with it is dependent on your intention. Okay, if the intention is corrupted, and if you're not constantly like the mukhlisin, right? If you're not a mukhlis, someone who is sincere, constantly sincere, perpetually sincere, right? And a hanif, right? Someone who is permanently steadfast upon tawheed, then your action is going to be destroyed, subhanAllah, and it is likely that you're going to face Allah Azza wa Jalla on the Day of Judgment with nothing in your in the record of your good deeds, right? So that is a scary thought. So this is why studying a matan like this in the beginning is very important, so that we purify our intentions, right? We purify our intentions, because if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to catch yourself falling into shahawat and shubuhat. Your intentions keep you upright. Your intentions keep you hanif, right? Your intentions keep you mukhlisin lahuddin. Okay, so this is why the Shaykh has mentioned this as a second point. But really, if you look at the hierarchy of things, it should be the first thing, because it is only with ikhlas that you can ever begin to recognize your shortcomings in terms of your shubuhat and shahawat. And we said the shahawat are the foundations of shubuhat, right? So if you start off by recognizing that you're not sincere, that is something that is in your mind, and that thought will lead you to other things. Right, that's the starting point, and everything else is a domino effect after that, right? So, subhanAllah, this purification of the intention, being always sincere for Allah Azza wa Jal's sake, right? This is the crux. The Shaykh says, وَمَا سَبَقَ مَنْ سَبَقَ وَلَا وَصَلَ مَنْ وَصَلَ مِنَ السَّلَفِ الصَّالِحِينَ إِلَّا بِالْإِخْلَاصِ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. مَا سَبَقَ مَنْ سَبَقَ. وَمَا سَبَقَ, and did not get ahead. Sabaqa is to get ahead. Ma sabaq, did not get ahead. Man sabaq, who got ahead. Wala wasala, and did not arrive or reach. Man wasala, who arrived and reached the pinnacles of ilm, of course. Min as-salaf as-salihin, from the righteous predecessors, pious salaf as-salihin. No one got ahead and reached the pinnacles of ilm and imamah in the deen, إلا بالإخلاص لله رب العالمين, except with intentions, with sincerity, ikhlas, except with sincerity for Allah, the Lord of all creation. Okay, رب العالمين. This is the principle. You have to understand this, that if you, in your corporate jobs, in your lives, perhaps you can get ahead by being a people pleaser, right? Being always trying to please others, and just wanting what is best for you and not really caring about others, just putting on a show, being a hypocrite on the in the inside, and just putting on a facade of, I want this this best for the company, so I'm doing this and this, but really what you want is something else, right? Or you lie, you lie in the corporate environment to get yourself a raise, and so on and so forth. This that kind of dishonesty can get you perhaps further in life, in a job, in a career, but it's not going to get you any further with Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So if you want to, as a Muslim, as a human being, if you want to progress in life, if you want to reach some izzah, some honor in life, if you want to attain some glory, then glory rests with Allah Azza wa Jal. You have to be sincere for you to attain any glory, which is recognition from Allah for your service of His deen. Right? This all comes down to your ikhlas. قال أبو بكر المروزي, or this is read in two ways. Imam al-Mirwazi or Marudhi. The Shaykh gives preference to al-Marudhi. قال أبو بكر al-Marudhi. In some of the Indo-Pak literature it says al-Mirwazi, but it's Marudhi, okay? And the Shaykh gives preference to this as well, this tashkil as well, okay? So this way of reading it. So قال أبو بكر المروذي رحمه الله, Abu Bakr al-Marudhi, he says, سمعت رجلا يقول لأبي عبد الله, يعني أحمد بن حنبل. سمعت رجلا, I heard رجلا, a man, يقول لأبي عبد الله, saying to Abi Abdullah. Who Abu Abdullah? يعني أحمد بن حنبل, meaning Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And this man, ذكر له الصدق والإخلاص. He mentioned to him الصدق, truthfulness, والإخلاص, sincerity. So he was speaking to him on an issue, and he mentioned something to do with truthfulness and ikhlas, right? So the discussion sort of turned towards truthfulness and sincerity. فقال أبو عبد الله, so Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he said to him, بهذا ارتفع القوم. It is with this, الصدق and ikhlas, that the qawm, the people, they got raised, right? They were lifted by Allah Azza wa Jal in the world and the akhirah, in the dunya and the akhirah. It is with the sidq and ikhlas. Okay? Some ulama, they explain the difference between as-sidq and ikhlas. They say that sidq is with yourself and ikhlas is for Allah Azza wa Jal. But anyway, this distinction, we'll talk about this when it comes in the books of Aqidah. But we have to understand at this stage is that you have to be truthful to yourself and you have to be sincere to Allah, right? It is with these two characteristics that people are raised in ranks. They're raised in honor. طيب. وإنما ينال المرء العلم على قدر إخلاصه. طيب. إنما ينال المرء العلم. A man attains knowledge. ينال, attains. مرء, a man or a person. العلم, well, مرء is a man. A man attains knowledge على قدر إخلاصه, as per the amount of his sincerity, right? As per his sincerity. Now the word innama basically says that a man only attains knowledge as per his sincerity, right? As much sincerity he has in his heart, right? That is how much ilm he's going to get in his real life. So basically they're directly proportional, right? So ikhlas is directly proportional to how much knowledge you're going to attain in life, right? So your ilm, essentially the nur of Allah Azza wa Jal, the light of Allah Azza wa Jal, the revelation and its knowledge, all of that is going to be attained in direct proportion to your sincerity, right? The more sincere you are, or the sincere you are, the more knowledge you're going to attain. So it is only with ikhlas that you attain knowledge. والإخلاص في العلم يقوم على 4 أصول بها تتحقق نية العلم للمتعلم إذا قصدها. والإخلاص and sincerity في العلم, in knowledge, يقوم, it stands على, upon 4 أصول, upon 4 foundations or 4 pillars, right? بها, it is with these أصول تتحقق نية العلم, the intention of ilm for a muta'allim, for a seeker, is actualized with these usul. Biha, تتحقق, actualized, realized, right? Niyatul ilmi, the intention of ilm, للمتعلم, for a seeker, biha, أي بهذه الأصول الأربعة, with these 4 principles. Okay, إذا قصدها, when he aims towards them, right? When these usul becomes objectives, right? These usul are essentially the objectives. طيب. That lead towards the actualization of the true sincere intention of seeking knowledge in the heart of a seeker, in the heart of a muta'allim, the learner. Tamam? What are those 4 usul? The first one, al-awwal, and of course you have to start where you have to start. This is, he says, رفع الجهل عن نفسه. رفع الجهل عن نفسه. So the lifting of ignorance عن نفسه, from himself. So a person, a learner, the very first reason why he wants to seek knowledge is because he wants to lift ignorance from himself. He wants to get rid of ignorance that exists in his being, in his mind, in his heart. He wants to leave this garb of ignorance. How does he do that? How does someone leave this life of ignorance and enter a life of light and knowledge? Well, بتعريفها ما عليها من العبوديات. With تعريف, educating it, informing it, the nafs, ما عليها, what is upon it, what is upon this nafs, the being, من العبوديات, from the acts of servitude. Okay, so how do you uplift ignorance or you get rid of ignorance from the self? By educating the self, بتعريفها, by educating it, ما عليها من العبوديات, what is upon it from the acts of servitude. وإيقافها على مقاصد الأمر والنهي, and stopping it upon the maqasid, the objectives of commands and prohibitions. To make the soul, the nafs, arrive and stay upon the objectives of the commands and prohibitions of Allah Azza wa Jal in His religion. What does he mean by that? He means that the very first thing that one of the reasons why you seek knowledge is because the soul, other than the fitrah that it has and the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal that it has, it's generally ignorant, right? It does not really know, in terms of its presence on the dunya, what actions does it need to do, right? And certainly does not know the objectives of commands and prohibitions that Allah Azza wa Jal has set in His religion, right? So you educate the nafs upon the actions of servitude, the acts of servitude, the things that it needs to do, and then to keep it firm upon the objectives of commands and prohibitions, as to why Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded certain things and why He has prohibited some certain things. Okay, so you educate yourself, and then you keep yourself steadfast upon the objectives of commands and prohibitions. So you stay put in terms of acting upon the commands and staying away from the things which have been prohibited. That is the first asl, that is the first foundation of ikhlas, essentially, in ilm. Okay, that you want to raise ignorance from yourself. You want to get rid of ignorance from yourself. Of course, once you've got rid of ignorance from yourself, now it is time to الثاني, the second thing, which is رفع الجهل عن الخلق, to uplift ignorance, to remove ignorance عن الخلق, from the creation. Once you have been educated, once you have learned enough things about your religion and yourself and the things that are required of you in this life, well, now you're required to remove ignorance from others. How? Well, by بتعليمهم, by educating them, right? By educating them. وإرشادهم, and guiding them لما فيه, towards that in which there is صلاح دنياهم وآخرتهم, which is the betterment of their dunya and their akhirah. Okay, so once you've educated yourself, you teach others. So you learn and then you teach. You learn about the things which are incumbent upon you and its objectives. Then you teach those same things to the creation, and you guide them, the creation, the people, towards that which is going to, which leads to the betterment of their dunya and their akhirah. Okay. Then the third thing is إحياء العلم. الثالث إحياء العلم, to revive ilm, to revive knowledge. And وحفظه من الضياع, and its protection from getting lost and wasted. طيب. Then the fourth one is العمل بالعلم. The fourth one is to act upon the knowledge. So you've educated yourself, you understand what the religion wants of you, what Allah has commanded you to do, and the things that He requires of you. And then you have started to teach others, and you've decided to guide others towards that which is going to be, better for them in the dunya and akhirah. And as a way of this, you are reviving knowledge in the community, and by way of reviving it, you're protecting it from getting lost. And then you act upon that knowledge. طيب. These are the four principles of the intention that you set for seeking knowledge. Okay? Now, if I ask you, we need to understand these four in a bigger paradigm, right? Because these four alone don't lead us to the way the Sahaba lived, essentially, because this kind of division did not exist in their minds. For them, they're not seeking knowledge because they want to get rid of ignorance from themselves, or they want to educate others, or they want to revive ilm, or they want to act upon the knowledge. They're seeking knowledge for spreading tawheed, right? So when the word ilm is being used, and this is something that in a lot of these books that talk about studying and seeking knowledge, they talk about this ilm as if ilm in itself is something praiseworthy, right? But when we refer to the word ilm, what we are really referring to is tawheed, right? And the amal of the people upon that tawheed, right? All of this idea of acting upon the ubudiyat, that is essentially a a part of tawheed al-uluhiyyah, right? The tawheed of ibadah. And so the prophets, they came with tawheed. When you talk about educating yourself and others, and then to revive knowledge and to act upon that knowledge, essentially what you're really getting to, if you look at this in the paradigm that the Sahaba looked at it, you're talking about the ihya of Islam by studying tawheed first, purifying your aqidah, teaching it to others, and then reviving that in the society, reviving tawheed in that society. So really what it comes down to is you're seeking knowledge for one thing and one thing only, which is that you want to revive Islam as religion, right? And what that means is you're reviving tawheed in the land. You're reviving the ibadah of Allah Azza wa Jal in the land, right? And how is that done? Well, that is done to two things. One, da'wah, and second, al-jihad. طيب. And da'wah, essentially, so this idea of teaching, guiding others, all of that essentially is da'wah, right? Education, all of this that we are engaged in, all of this is da'wah. So teaching others, education is a form of da'wah, right? This tarbiyah that the parents do is da'wah to their children, right? The parents do da'wah to their children. When they're doing tarbiyah of their children, they're doing da'wah to them. طيب. When you go out and start engaging with the kuffar and the mushrikeen and anyone who are against Islam, for example, you are essentially doing what? Ihya al-ilm. You're doing ihya al-tawheed. You're reviving tawheed and you're preserving it from being lost. If no one speaks about tawheed, say everyone talks about grammar. Say there's millions of books being written on Arabic grammar, right? There's millions of books being written on Asma Rijal and Hadith and Tafsir and all. But all of that has been written. All of that ilm is not going anywhere, right? But no one talks about protecting tawheed. No one talks about protecting the ird of the Muslims, the honor of the Muslims. No one talks about why Allah deserves to be worshipped, why it is Allah's Sharia, His law alone that needs to be followed in the lands, right? If that is not ilm for you, and that if that is not something that you're talking about, then you've, unfortunately, you've failed the objective of the prophets, right? So the reason why we seek knowledge is not that there is something called this virtuous thing called knowledge that we're going to learn, educate ourselves, and we teach it to others, and then we revive and preserve this particular knowledge, and act upon that knowledge. This ilm that is being referred to is tawheed, right? It's the ilm of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's the ilm al-ibadah, ilm al-ilahiyya, right? This is the knowledge of al-uluhiyya, right? Ilm al-uluhiyya. This is what is at the crux of seeking knowledge. طيب? So when you seek knowledge, you have to make the intention that, oh Allah Azza wa Jal, I'm ignorant, I want to serve the deen, I want to worship you, but I can't worship you unless I know about you and what you have commanded me to do. You have told me in the Quran that you have created me to worship you, but I don't know how to worship you. I want to worship you, I want to believe in you, I want to go closer to you, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to seek knowledge of your tawheed and anything that you command of me or you require of me. And then I'm going to teach it to others by da'wah and teaching them through ilm and knowledge and circles, halaqat. طيب? And then I will protect this ilm of tawheed by defending it in any circle I can and writing about it and giving fatwa if you give me that capacity, right? And then I'm going to stand with this haqq in the field of da'wah, in the field of amal, with on your commands, and of course in the battlefield. That is the epitome of amal with this tawheed, because when you're going to act upon this tawheed, you are going to cause friction in the society. That is a no-brainer, because people are bent in their ways, right? So subhanallah, think about this. Why do you think the anbiya in the past were killed? Why do you think that the prophets were tortured? The Sahaba or the companions like the Hawariyeen and others in the past of Isa, why were they tortured? Why were they killed? Why are there so many stories that we hear in the Quran and the Sunnah where others, like the magicians who came at the time of Musa alayhi salam, they were sentenced by the Fir'aun, right? Why is it? Right? إن الذين يكفرون بآية الله ويقتلون الأنبياء ويقتلون النبيين بغير حق ويقتلون الذين يأمرون بالقسط من الناس فبشرهم بعذاب أليم. Those who disbelieve in the ayat of Allah, and they kill the prophets, and they kill those who command good. فبشرهم بعذاب أليم. So give them a glad tidings of a painful torment. So we understand from this that people have in the past killed those who have tried to do what? Revive Tawheed, spread Tawheed, tell people about Tawheed, right? This friction is going to come. If the friction is not coming, then sorry to say, your religion essentially is the Islam that you're teaching is not something that is going to reflect the da'wah of the prophets. It does not reflect it does not stand for the da'wah of the prophets. You with me, inshallah? So why we want to seek knowledge? Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned something very, very beautiful in Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada rahimahullah. He said, based on he's paraphrasing the meaning of the hadith, which is weak in it's in his chain, but the meaning is sound. And he says that the one who studies, his sole intention behind studying the deen of Allah, the only thing that motivates him to study the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal is so that he may revive the deen of Allah in the world, so that he may do ihya of the religion of the deen in the world. If that becomes the sole intention of someone while they seek knowledge, that they want to revive the deen of Allah, they want to make the deen the only ruling authority in the planet, then their mission is the mission of the prophets, and their rank, their daraja in the sight of Allah is right after the prophets. Their daraja is with the siddiqeen. That is something we want to seek knowledge for, right? That is what we set our intentions for, right? If we're not doing that, then what's the point of studying, just educating ourselves and just educating others and protecting some knowledge and some facts in books, and then acting upon. What the Shaykh is actually getting to is this essentially, right? This is the crux of it. Why, when we talk about al-ilm in the books, it refers to ilm tawheed, okay, and all the sacrifice that came with it, as demonstrated by the prophets and their companions. طيب. So we want to educate ourselves about tawheed, about Allah, about His commandments, so that we may act upon them, and we may teach others and may guide others, and then stand with it in the field of da'wah and al-jihad. Okay, this is the crux. Think about this, subhanAllah. I know so many people, I think even myself, I have been personally, like, this is from personal experience, I think if you can give one counter example, the whole proof falls down, right? No one, I think hardly anyone starts seeking knowledge, hardly, because they love studying. I mean, there are people who love studying and then they become studious and they start studying, right? But that was certainly not the case for me, right? And that's certainly not the case for a lot of people that I know personally. Like, I was perhaps, yes, gifted academically. I would get good grades without studying. That was all throughout university, perhaps, right, until university. But I was not studious. I did not like to read. I did not like to study. I like to pretend that I am one of those studious ones, because that is the image people got of me, because I was just generally, a curious kid. I would ask questions and stuff. But I wasn't studious. I hated reading. I was more into the practical side of things, right? And so many people, other people are like that, right? But the thing that really convinces them to not start reading is that they see that they belong to an identity which is al-Islam, and it is a truth, and it is being battered, and it is being oppressed from all sides, and you have to protect your identity. You have to stand up for it, right? How do you stand up for it? Well, you have to learn. You have to seek knowledge, and this is when learning becomes relevant, right? I know so many other people, ulama, who start with this attitude. They had no intention of studying, but it becomes relevant to them for some reason, because one of the main reasons is that Islam needs, Muslims, right? Well, we shouldn't say that. Muslims need Islam for their baqa in this world, right? To be able to stay alive as a community, they need Islam, right? If they're not going to stand for Islam, then of course Islam is going to be, or the Muslims as a whole, the community, they're going to be suppressed, they're going to be broken down, and they're going to be wiped off the scene. So basically, coming down and simplifying the whole narrative here, people become practicing because Allah guides them. But it is always that intention, that there's always that kind of relevancy that becomes apparent when this idea of serving the religion in some shape or form comes in. Okay, look at the brothers or sisters who are reverts, for example. I mean, they have a life which perhaps is full of enjoyment, it's full of luxuries and whatnot, in terms of the dunya, right? They don't have any chains on things, right, on themselves, stopping them from doing what they want to do, from the pleasures of the dunya, right? But then they all of a sudden they're hit with this existential crisis as to why they're here, what's the purpose, and then that forces them to look into things. And even people who had no interest in studying, who had no interest in asking good questions, all of a sudden when they're faced with this existential crisis, identity crisis, they ask questions, and then they read, and then they learn, and they discuss. All of these things, learning becomes relevant when it comes towards, when it comes to this existential side of things, subhanAllah, right? So this is certainly the case that most people are motivated when it comes to serving the deen of Allah. I mean, so many people, I know brothers, mashallah, never got good grades in school, never achieved anything, top notch in their academics, but since the problem in Gaza started, they've started seeking knowledge, right? it's like they are willing to do anything that will, that they can do to help their brothers and sisters, right? So these kinds of situations, when Islam needs the Muslims and the Muslims need Islam for their survival, knowledge becomes relevant. So a lot of people don't really seek knowledge for these four things. What they really seek knowledge for is that they want to make Islam great again. They want to make Islam alive again in the world, right? And that is only possible if they become educated in terms of the Tawheed, in terms of the basics of Islam, the Ubudiyat, and they teach it to others. And that is how the community is built. And once they're a community, they can start making some important decisions for themselves, right? Allahu Akbar. So this is the crux of this discussion. So when the Shaykh is mentioning these four principles are valid in terms of al-ilm being a tawheed, okay, and the commandments, the al-awamir wa nawahi, right? The commands and the prohibitions Allah Azza wa Jalla has set because He's al-ilah, and this is ibadah, right? So your life, your success in the akhirah, all of that is dependent on that, right? So you seek knowledge because you want to educate yourself, you want to remove ignorance from yourself and then the creation, and then you want to revive this amongst the community by protecting this knowledge, by giving da'wah, by giving lectures, by teaching it to your children, and so on and so forth. And then it shouldn't stay just to that limit. It shouldn't just stay academic and factual. It needs to go beyond and become something practiced in the society. Okay? So, وَلَقَدْ كَانَ السَّلَفُ رَحِمَهُمُ اللَّهِ يَخَافُونَ فَوَاتِ الْإِخْلَاصِ فِي طَلَبِهِمْ الْعِلْمَ. The Salaf al-Salihin, they used to fear losing ikhlas in their search for knowledge. يَخَافُونَ, they used to fear. كَانَ يَخَافُونَ, they used to fear. فَوَاتِ الْإِخْلَاص, the losing of ikhlas, فِي طَلَبِهِمْ, in their search, العلم of ilm. فيتورعون عن ادعائه. فيتورعون, they used to refrain عن, from ادعائه, it's claiming. So claiming ikhlas, as if claiming, oh yeah, we're so sincere, we spend so much time sacrificing this and that. All they talk about is that. طيب, the Salaf al-Salihin, they used to refrain from claiming any sort of ikhlas in their speech. لا أنهم لم يحققوه في قلوبهم. Not that they had not actualized it in their hearts, but rather they would not show off their good deeds and their sincerity to people. In that relation, سئل الإمام أحمد بن حنبل هل طلبت العلم لله? He was asked, did you seek knowledge? هل طلبت العلم? Did you seek knowledge لله, for Allah? فقال لله عزيز ولكنه شيء حبب إلي فطلبته. Lillah, for Allah, Aziz, that's great. That's a great statement to make. Aziz. ولكنه, however, شيء حبب إلي. It was a thing, حبب, it was made beloved, إلي, towards me, فطلبته, so I sought it. I mean, subhanallah, of course it's something because he wanted to seek knowledge. He did seek knowledge for Allah Azza wa Jal, right? But he is refraining from mentioning that, right? Because he wants to protect his sincerity, subhanAllah. وَمَنْ ضَيَّعَ الْإِخْلَاصَ فَاتَهُ عِلْمٌ كَثِيرٌ وَخَيْرٌ وَفِيرٌ. And whoever wasted sincerity, فَاتَهُ عِلْمٌ كَثِيرٌ, a great amount of knowledge will be lost upon him. وَخَيْرٌ وَفِيرٌ, and an abundant amount of goodness will be lost upon him, right? He will lose much of knowledge and a great abundance of khair if he loses or wastes his ikhlas. Allahu Akbar. وينبغي لقاصد السلامة أن يتفقد هذا الأصل وهو الإخلاص. It is a must upon the seeker of salama, peace and security, أن يتفقد هذا الأصل, that he is always searching and scrutinizing this asl, this principle, and that is ikhlas, huwa al-ikhlas. So it is a must for the qasid al-salama, the seeker of security, right, and correctness and peace in his life, أن يتفقد هذا الأصل, that he always searches and scrutinizes this أصل, وهو الإخلاص, and that is الإخلاص. في أموره كلها, in all of his affairs. في أموره كلها, in all of his affairs. دقيقها, in its finer details, in its smaller affairs. وجليلها, and its greater affairs. So أمور, دقيق الأمور, وجليل الأمور, in the finer, smaller of the affairs, and the great grand affairs of his life. He's always searching and scrutinizing his ikhlas in everything. Sirriha, in its secret. So sir al-umur, in the secret of the affairs. وعلنها, and the apparent of the affairs. Subhanallah. ويحمل على هذا التفقد شدة معالجة النية. And the intensity of curing the intention, the intensity of mu'alaja, of curing, treatment or treating of the intention, يحمل على, it is dependent upon هذا التفقد, this scrutiny and search for ikhlas. Okay, so the intensity with which you need to treat your intention and your sincerity, it is dependent upon this scrutiny of yours, this self-inspection of yours as to how sincere you are. قال سفيان الثوري رحمه الله, Sufyan al-Thawri رحمه الله, he said, ما عالجت شيئا أشد علي من نيتي لأنها تتقلب علي. ما عالجت شيئا, I have not treated a thing, شيئا. ما عالجت, I have not treated a thing. أشد علي, more severe upon me, more tougher upon me, or tougher upon me, من نيتي, from my intention, or than my intention. لأنها تتقلب علي, because it تتقلب, it keeps turning upon me, it keeps changing upon me. Subhanallah. And this is someone who is the teacher of Imam Shafi'i. This is not a small Imam, this is one of the Tabi'een, right? Or Atba' Tabi'een. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah, right? He's one of the teachers of Imam Shafi'i. So he's not a small name. If he's saying something, that you and I need to be careful. بل قال سليمان الهاشمي, rather Sulaiman al-Hashimi rahimahullah, he said, ربما أحدث بحديث واحد ولي نية. Perhaps I narrate a hadith and I have an intention when I narrate that hadith. I start with an intention. فإذا أتيت على بعضه تغيرت نيتي. And when I come to a portion of the same hadith, my intention changes. تغيرت نيتي. It's as if my intention has changed from what it was when I started saying the same hadith. فإذا الحديث الواحد يحتاج إلى نيات. For subhanAllah, so one hadith, it requires many intentions. Like even when you're doing one single thing, you're narrating something, subhanAllah, it is very plausible that you may have to keep checking your intention as you're doing that. Like, this is Sulaiman al-Hashimi rahimahullah. He's saying that I start narrating one hadith, and as I'm narrating it, I come to a portion, and then my niyyah changes. Perhaps people look at how many people are here, look how many people are listening, perhaps, right? And they have to keep fighting it. So it's one hadith, subhanallah. Just one hadith could need so many intentions, the changing of intentions. You start with one intention, it changes, and then you fight it and you fix it. So you renew your intention, and then you fix it. And then and it comes, and it sort of it detracts again, and then you fix it. Subhanallah, right? So this is the matter of intention. Subhanallah. So ikhlas, the sincerity, has to be present in your intentions. Any intention that you do has to have ikhlas, and this ikhlas is the ikhlas of those who are mukhlisin lahuddin and hunafa. It has to be for the sake of Allah, and this ikhlas this sincerity has to be for the sake of making the religion of Allah pure and staying steadfast upon his tawheed and avoiding shirk. Okay, inshallah. So with this, alhamdulillah, we have finished our second ma'aqid. We've spent longer than usual, but alhamdulillah, this was needed. I did not want to stop this discussion in the middle, but alhamdulillah, we have managed to finish the discussion. And with this, we'll end this session and we'll jump into our Arabic session. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.